welcome, wonderful viewers. It's a beautiful season. It's a new year. Everything is new, bright and beautiful. And thank you for joining us this wonderful day in this dynamic show called Ladies in Heels. Step up to stand out, becoming a force that can't be ignored. Today I'm with my co-host, the Eagle Moore herself. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you, Lady A. Looking gorgeous as usual.
I thank you. I feel like I can eat you like a strawberry.
I look like a strawberry, eh?
Oh.
I feel like strawberries.
Okay.
I do feel like strawberries.
To our viewers, today we've got an extraordinary guest with us. When I think of her, it reminds me of the mining space. When you think of the mobile moving equipment, I tell you the excavators, the 777 machines and the graders and so forth. So what I'm trying to say to you today, I'm bringing you a great mineral. Make sure that you listen and you download very well in this episode. I'm talking about none and only Yvette. Welcome to the show, lady.
Thank you, Lady A. Thank you
How
for
are you
having
doing?
me. I'm good. I'm super good. 2022 is a good year, and I'm hoping that it will be good going forward.
I've tried to explain to the viewers, using the likes of the mobile moving equipment. And I do believe that you can talk about yourself much better than I. If you can share with the viewers more of who you are, what do you do?
Let me try to summarize my life, the 40 plus years into a summarized version that we can do in 2 minutes. My name is Yvette Thandekile Shibambo. I'm a senior project manager at ESCOM. I've been with the organization for about 21 years now.
Wow.
And I have been in different positions within the organization. My background, my first degree, I did a mathematics degree, a BSc mathematics at Pretoria University.
Okay.
I did a diploma in engineering, and then I did a master's in engineering with the University of Warwick in the UK in 2001. So that's basically who I am. And in addition to my professional work, I also do corporate emceeing. I'm a motivational speaker,
Okay.
and I also own a foundation which deals with young people. And I'm a chef.
Can I tell people some more? There's one thing that I expected her to unpack and she didn't. You are in trouble. In addition, she is a preacher of the word.
Yes, she is. I like the chef part, my friend. In
We must
2020
visit after
we
the
must
show.
definitely
Yeah,
visit because in 2022, remember, one of our goals is to stay in shape. I don't want to say lose weight.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say stay in shape. But anyway, Aus Evie, welcome again
thank you,
to the show.
Morowe.
You're always looking beautiful, always so brilliant. I just like talking to her because I tell you, she's got so much energy. Aus Evie, being in project management, and I know that you deal with complex projects.
Yeah.
She does. So in terms of the gender, being a female in that space, how does it work?
Okay. In the past, we are not well represented, but I think the world is evolving.
Yeah.
According to the latest PMI survey, I think we are represented well. We are about 30 to 40% of the, project managers as women in terms of gender.
That's
so
good
that's
progress,
it's good progress because in 2008, women were only represented about 20%. So it's a good move. I think we're going in the right direction. I think the reason it's a bit complex is because most women in the past never used to think of venturing to project management, but now we're seeing a lot of ladies coming in, and it's getting very, very progressive. And complex projects are complex, but trust me, a woman can handle anything.
A woman
that.
can handle anything. Did you hear that? Powerful, I must say. Very, very powerful. But you've just touched on something here, sharing with us the statistics, the ball changing of this game to say now we are moving forward towards the right direction. And I think you've also have a level of responsibility and accountability to say, how do you transfer the skill? How do you groom the other upcoming project managers so that they don't fear, they step up in confidence and they are ready and they have the required skills that it's needed in this particular portfolio?
Mentoring is very, very important. I usually said mentoring means mentoring each other's lives. So, you can read all the books that you want in the world. However, if you don't get the practical experience and the know-how and the expertise, you are not going to be able to be successful in whatever it is that you do. So it's critical that to develop the younger ones, we mentor them. I'm one of the people who's very, very intentional in mentoring the young people. So I know that there's a shelf life to a project manager, and it's critical that by the time I retire at 55, at least there are young people that I've actually mentored to understand, how to do this. And because project management is a dynamic field, information and knowledge and the project management field itself evolves. So it's critical that you get in young guys with their young ideas to come in, and neutralize, the thinking of the older generation, the Yvettes and all that. So a combination of the old and the new will be able to take us to the next level in project management, especially for complex projects.
And in the same space, how do you abreast yourself with information? So much has been happening. COVID, and I do believe even post-COVID, we still need to step up and show a lot of innovation, and be at the top of our game.
Yeah, project management is very, very dynamic. Usually you're expected to plan to the letter. However, when you're executing, anything can happen. So you have to be agile as a project manager and always ensure that, when problems hit you, you know how to deal with them quickly and then move to get to the end of the line. Because if you don't do that, then you will falter. So you have to decide that what do you do when problems come? Do you falter and die, or do you fight and continue?
So actually, a person who's very rigid cannot survive.
In an environment like that. Yeah, and also in terms of innovation, I think it's a continual improvement element that has to be inherent in project management, because the way we do things now is completely different from how we used to do them in the past. Like in the past years, when we were building the big stations, legislation was still accommodating. These days, you have to get an ROD when your project is a greenfield. You have to get an EIA. You have to do, feasibility studies to ensure that your sequencing of events, or before you even start your project, everything is perfect. You have to check the constructability of your whole project before you even execute. So things like that in the past were never there. You only had to go in and do a project as you think, will be the best plan. As long as you had your resources and you had the money, you thought you were okay. And as long as you could do it safely, then you are okay. But now, trust me, there is a new element of how we have to do, project management. You have to also look at your stakeholders, analyze what their needs are, because you cannot be building a project in a space where you have people in your environment and you don't look at things like that. So you have to make sure that you concentrate on how to get your project on time within the budget that you have, and also look at how you can ensure that when you deliver this project, you're also taking care of the environment and the people in your vicinity, because all those account, to a success of a project. So it's critical that you add everything.
Interesting field today. We are talking and unpacking about project management. Make sure that you come back after this break. See you shortly. Welcome back, wonderful viewers. We are here making sure that we empower you, we enable you, so that you can be able to pursue your leadership journey. We are talking about a very specific question before we went to the commercial break that Murunga asked. Murunga, maybe perhaps you can remind her of the question. Let's hear from Yvette.
Yes, this is the Evie. As you say, women can do everything. That is the ability that we are actually born with. Now, my question is, what is that extra, or that thing that differentiates us from our male counterparts?
Okay. Sorry to all the guys who are watching this. We love you very much, but I have to unpack this and just tell the truth, I usually say women managers are the best because we've got that inherent nurturing characteristic within us. So that makes us, different in that we are able, to communicate better, to guide and grow other people better. And we have that element, man, that thing.
So,
to unpack it, the other thing that makes us different is that our day-to-day basis, on a day-to-day basis, we are project managers from starting at home. You having to organize your kids in the morning, it's project management on its own. All those activities, getting them to bath, preparing their clothes, their lunch boxes, making sure that they get to school on time, that's project management. If you can't manage that, then you will not be able to succeed and your day is going to be messed up. So when they come back from school, you having to organize the food and everything, the husband getting him food on time and all that. That's project management.
And I think even pregnancy is a project.
It's a project on its own.
On its own, right?
So,
and that's why I don't believe that men can survive, going through the process of being pregnant. So which means women manage projects much better.
Much better,
than
guys.
men.
Yes. So when you bring it back home now, when you have to get groups together and you get people with different characteristics, different expertise, different knowledge, you get them into one room. A woman is likely, to be better at managing, the dynamics like that, even though we are emotional, more emotional than guys, but because the way we do things, we are more upfront, we know how to deal with conflict and all those things. We become better because when teams converge, trust me, there is conflict that is gonna occur. So women are better off at managing conflict because that's something that we're born with,
That's true.
And another thing is because we are experts at conflict, with time, when you grow up, we learn how to manage the conflict. So in a work environment, it becomes easy because you just extend, what you do on a day-to-day basis into the work environment. In terms of communicating, we communicate to the letter on everything. So when it comes to project objectives, it becomes very, very easy for a woman to unpack the project objectives because we talk too much, we like communicating, and we are good at it. So when you have activities to do, everybody understands what it is that they need to do at what time. And again, because they call us neggers, it is very easy for us to neg people for progress. With us, when there's a job to be done and we expect progress, we don't mind calling you 10 times a day to find out how far are you in terms of this activity. But with men, it doesn't come easy. So with us, because it comes easy, that's our talent. We manage to actually ensure that people deliver on time because we are not shy.
No, we're not shy. And now you're reminding me of there is this test called HBDI. It's an assessment that we do in Ladies in Health.
Yeah.
It sort of sectionalizes your brain and shows which quadrants you actually use mostly. My husband is an extreme right, being a yellow. We call it a yellow. And in his mind, when he says we're going to Cape Town, it's done, the details in between,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He's got that vision. He has already, he's got that vision to say, okay, this is where we're going. But in terms of how do we get there, it becomes a problem because then I will, raise my hand and say, but how do we go? How do we get there? And I understand what you're saying, to say, women are better communicators. And when you look at most of the profiles for women, actually we are in the red and green quadrant, which is more of your project management, quadrant, and as well as the blue in terms of analyzing and making sure that we understand what we're talking about. So I agree with you. Women has got that thing.
Yes.
That extra thing.
Maybe let me share this with the viewers. If you are interested in terms of this assessment that we do here in Ladies in Heels, don't hesitate. Make sure that you DM us. Trust you me, it's going to help you a lot. Not only in terms of leadership, in terms of choosing your career, in terms of relationships as well. So kudos to Ladies in Heels. My lady, let me ask you this question, trying to find out how has the leadership style of those who went ahead you and your peers has influenced you in your leadership journey?
Yeah. I actually believe that a person is not self-made. We are bits and pieces of everybody that you've ever interacted with. When I started working, in the organization that I work at, 21 years ago, I was still young, qualified. I thought I was smart. You know how we feel when we come from university.
Yes, I know.
You're walking on water.
Like Peter, right?
Yes.
Not like Jesus.
So when I joined the organization, you can imagine that the older guys also get insecure when a person is coming in. I remember when they were teaching me the plan, they used to tell me, so in a few years, you're going to be our boss. And I'd be like thinking, what is this person talking about? I'm just here for 2 days. And
Fear
then,
of the unknown. Eh?
Yes. I got promoted and I was a manager. I became a manager in my early 20s. So in boardrooms when I was in there, when I raised a point as a young person, the way I look, I don't want to be political and everything. So they wouldn't take me serious because it was a male-dominated environment and, guys were there and they've arrived. So it was also difficult for them to actually accept a person of my caliber into that space. So when I made a point, they'll never take me serious. And with time, I developed a character that was not mine because I had to fight through everything. To make a point, I have to fight through. So fast forward to 10 years after that, I saw that I'm not myself and I didn't like the person that I was becoming. So I learned a lot from the bosses that I've had. Number one, I'm going to tell you about 3 bosses. Number one, he was very, very calm. You know, that guy, it doesn't matter how people will irritate him, you know, in a meeting. He would maintain his cool and he would actually make sure that, you know, when he responds, his response is not emotional. So I thought, you know what, that's a characteristic that I really, 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 really want to have as a person. So I started practicing and doing exactly that to ensure that as a person, you know, I don't get emotional and react to everything. Sometimes you don't need people, you don't owe people a reaction. And that's a good thing. It's a good management thing. Number 2, there's one who always had a poker face.
Okay.
You can't
You
read.
would not read what it is that he's thinking.
Did you have to like try a floor, the X-ray floor, to try to predict what's gonna be happening?
No. You like with him, he was so and I had a discussion with him and asked him, were you always like this, or it's something that you acquired with time? And he told me that no, it's a skill that I've acquired.
Wow.
So it's related to the first one that I highlighted, that you have to become and be emotionally intelligent, and you don't owe anybody, you know, a reaction when it comes to some of these things that don't agree with what it is that you're saying. The third one, leadership style that I learned from one of my bosses is that you have to be inclusive as a leader.
Yes.
When you are a leader, remember you can't achieve anything by yourself.
Yes. True.
So you need to actually ensure that all the resources that you have around you are involved in everything that you do.
Yes.
So it has helped me a lot because when you involve people and they feel as if they're part of the team, they will support you to the end. And they will make sure that in everything that they do, they don't disappoint you. So it helped me a lot because it makes projects, you know, become easier.
Easy to manage.
And successful.
There you are. You've heard it for yourself that it's all about the balance of EQ and IQ. And I believe that as she's a woman of faith, for her it's a 3-dimension: EQ, IQ, and SQ. Let's take a break. Welcome back, our wonderful, gorgeous viewers. We are still having a very good, effective engagement here with Yvette. And maybe before we ask you any further question, because as women, we are selfless beings. Before we went to the commercial break, you were kind of touching on the emotional intelligence and saying men are very, very good at it. So let's do justice to all the men out there that you are very good in terms of striking the balance between IQ and EQ. We want to say kudos, and I believe that us as women, we've got a lot of opportunities to learn from you. Keep up the good work. Make sure that you eliminate all those emotions. We will follow and we'll be like you.
Yes, Sister Evie. Yeah, no, as I said, it's always exciting to actually talk to you all the time. I must be honest. You know, you always have got, when I talk to you, I always get to learn, you know, something new. So tell me, I know you are so passionate about young people. You are so passionate about mentorship. How do you go about mentorship?
Yeah. I love young people, and I'm intentional about mentoring people. I believe that if you don't mentor others, you are actually closing that opportunity of somebody learning something new from you. So what I do in the environment is I before COVID, when we could still do things, I used to make sure that I have young people, you know, in my department. I'll actually go look for them, you know, from HR. And when I do the mentoring, I actually ensure that make sure that the program is documented, and I sit with the individuals to ensure that they know what the objectives are, and we put timelines to it. So on a monthly basis, I will give these young people a task, you know, on a separate area of plant or project management, and expect them to go there and speak to the people that are working in these different areas, and also give them an assignment to say, expect an assignment on this particular day. So when they are done, after a month, I get a team of managers, you know, in the business unit that we're at. We sit down, we avail ourselves for an hour, 2 hours. We let these young people come in and present what they've learned. And then after the presentations, we'll then score them, give them feedback, give them advice on what it is that they need to concentrate on and all that. Then the second element will be me getting the assignments back. I'll sit down and mark each assignment and give them a score. The ones that get more than 80%, then they can proceed to the next level. The ones that get below, they need to rewrite the assignment until they get 80. So a combination of both practical and theory help them, to actually understand an element of something in the project management vicinity within the project that we're executing. And again, what I did is I'll also have one-on-ones, on a monthly basis with these individuals or these young people, where I check how they're doing, what is frustrating them, what is it that they're learning, other areas of their life, how they're doing, because I believe that as leaders, we cannot only expect people, to be okay when they enter the gate. There are some elements that might bother them outside, and we need to assist them with it. In things that I could not assist with, I'll get, my friends who are pastors, who are social workers, to also assist these people, to deal with this so that we deal with the person holistically. And with that, there's also another thing that I'm passionate about. I also supervise a lot of honors and masters, papers, because I'm an industrial supervisor. So I think that is my passion, of mentoring or grooming young people that I do on a day-to-day basis. When I enter the office, I just don't only concentrate on the inputs that I have. I also put time aside to ensure that I groom the other people, because I was groomed by somebody. My first mentor that I had did justice to grooming me into the person that I am, and it would be very, very unfair not to mention him. Bev Lawrence, you did well. You embraced me when I was still new in the environment, and you helped me to be the person that I am. And the other mentors also who've groomed me, I also thank them, because...
I thought you would say more, epic more.
Unfortunately, it's Bev. Well done. Well done, Bev.
Yes, well done, Bev. We have to give it to him. Now, Sis Evie, let's go back to teamwork. You've said that you as a leader, you work through people. You achieve goals through people, all right? And a clever writer called Stephen said, teamwork permits common people to do uncommon things. What is your take on that?
He's so right. You cannot achieve anything alone. And hence also as a human being, you have different parts, in your body. You have hands, you have a brain, you have a mouth. All those have to collectively work together. Also, when you execute major projects or mega projects, it's critical that you get the right people with the right skills and who are dynamic and different to come in and form a team. If you have that, you have different expertise coming together, you have different experience and knowledge coming in together, and collectively, those will ensure that your project becomes successful. So you'll have a guru in finance, you'll have a guru in stakeholder management, you have a guru in procurement, all those people collectively will be able to help you to do the job effectively and efficiently. So I totally agree with that thinking.
All right.
Let me ask you this interesting question, coming back to the SQ, knowing that you're a woman of faith, you love the Lord so much. I've noticed that at times some believers, they love Sunday more than any other day in the week. Okay? And when we are in the corporate space or when we are in the working environment, when people are given constructive feedback, people, they like hiding behind the scripture that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that scripture doesn't promote laziness.
No.
So how do we shift that mindset and encourage the believers to make sure that when they are at work, their best is expected. They need to deliver. They need to focus. Yes, pray, but be hands-on.
Yeah.
How do you drive that SQ and embrace it with that operational vibe?
You have different levels of Christianity. You have the babies who are still on milk, and you have those ones who are so involved or advanced and they're now at mid-level. And I think if a person who has wisdom, you'll be able to embrace all of those people. So what I do is when I have believers, staunch believers in my team, I also accommodate them. Before we do any meeting, have any activity, or before we go into difficult, execution activities, I ask the believer to pray for us,
Okay.
to help us to get wisdom to be able to execute that job, because that's something that we might not be able to do with our own intelligence, but we need God to intervene and help us. You need divine intervention to actually pull the activity through. So they will feel accommodated if you do that to them. In the morning, like, you can open up, have or allow people to have a prayer session before work starts. If you start at 7, give them an opportunity to say, look, between 7:15 and 7 o'clock, just have a prayer so that we can bless the day and ensure that everything that we do, is going to be God ordained and for us to be able to execute as well. And again, there's a lot of scriptures that I can quote, but there's one that says, go to the end, thou sluggard, So as a person, you expect people not to be lazy. Ends are very, very structured. So even as a believer, as much as you're a believer, you must go and observe the ends and see how they do their work.
Oh, yes.
I think before, they do anything, they know that they have to execute a particular task, but they do that via structure. So also as a Christian, as much as you are, a Christian and everything, when you're at work, you get paid to perform a duty, and you must do that to the letter. So we can balance the two.
There you are. Heard it for yourself. One author once said, feedback is good breakfast for champions.
Yes.
You've heard it for yourself. Embrace constructive feedback because it will definitely help you to grow. See you in our next episode.